So my philosophy is like never to be static. So I don't think there's ever a set way that this game should be played. Obviously, there's always going to be new characters, new ideas, and different styles on how to play the game. And I think if you lock yourself into a certain way of thinking, you're not enabling yourself to play the best that you can, or your team. So
they did this against Nerd Street. Oh my god!
This was during the Masters, actually. So
that's pretty sad. And
yeah, I mean, yeah.
So does probation mean that he cannot then?
I definitely believe that orgs need to stop blowing up their roster. I mean, there's multiple orgs that are constantly switching out players, and this is not the move. I mean, if you can't just plug and play, like, you know, not every player is 10s.
Another huge week in the world of Valorant, and all you need now is a few people to tell you exactly what to think about it all. Welcome back to Valoranting, the most obnoxious ranting show. I am Mitch Leslie. I'm joined here by Van Silly and a special guest today, only Yinsu Collins. Thank you so much for joining us from across the pond.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we've got two accents that people are gonna find really hard to understand now on the show. So there's that.
Yeah, Vans, have you considered any speech training to sort of knock that Canadian accent out, mate? Because it's getting a bit much.
Non, pas besoin. Je pourrais aussi changer en français. Alors on aura ce problème-là aussi.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I mean, you can talk dirty to me after the show, otherwise we get taken off the air. Let's talk a little. Let's jump in. Look, we've got, honestly, frankly, we've got a ton of stuff to cover because obviously we saw Masters in every region over the weekend, because there's nothing quite like having literal 48-hour period with no breaks in between, just Masters coverage all over the world. And I know for one that Van Silly has watched every second of every game of every region.
Not yet.
And he's going to have to prove it later on in the show. We're going to talk Trippy as well, because obviously the Faze Clan story is still something that's developing, and Trippy obviously is kind of the mastermind behind all of that. We'll be giving our awards for NA Masters in particular in partnership with Spike.gg. And we'll be looking a little bit of spicy trash talk that came out of it. So let's deep dive in and let's start. So we'll see, you know, for a confirmation in the coming days about what NISA's future is. And yeah, the grandstanding is quite ridiculous in Europe, but it's nice to have a chance to address that. We're going to keep talking about Europe, though, because we got Yinsu on a roll. We don't want to...
Hell yeah.
I mean, can we start, I mean, broadly speaking, the champions of European Masters are Ascend.
Yeah.
I think to many people, not an expected result at all.
No, I think to every person except for Turkish fans, because Turkish fans are actually the most passionate fans I think I have ever met. There was a Twitter poll actually where CNED was in contention for player of the week. He wasn't, by the way. He just was not.
It should have been Logan, I think, that particular week.
Yeah, and they had, oh no, it should have been, I think it was Takas, but they had 75,000 fans vote for CNED, which is mad. Like half of them didn't even watch him play. But yeah, as you said, no one really expected Ascend to win, but I think this is the Cinderella story. This is like, you know, not really sort of Cloud9 Boston major level, because Cloud9 were like kind of in the mix at the time, but this is a team that came out of nowhere. This is like, had Summon FC won First Strike, it would be like that, you know, a team, a ragtag, you know, group of boys that people kind of knew. Everyone knew CNED, but people weren't necessarily that familiar with the rest of the team. But I love them all. They're great. They all have really good personalities. They obviously are very skilled and talented. They have a good coaching staff as well. I think they have a lot of like support behind them at the moment, and obviously it paid off. And they somehow, I say somehow, they won by literally beating every good team in the tournament. They beat NIP, they beat FPX, they beat Heretic. Like they didn't even have an easy bracket.
Yep, they didn't sail through it all. I mean, you can see that one here, right? This doesn't tell the whole story, because for those that may not be aware, the European Masters worked from a group stage, like a GSL style bracket. Yep. So it was a group stage, and then people qualified through to that bracket towards the end. Let's talk about FPX and Defuse, right? They play against each other in Group B in the winners bracket there. Defuse were the team, as we kind of mentioned before, that end up knocking out G2, in challenges, like deny them another opportunity. This game was really close. I mean, FPX is so structured in general here, right? I think that's something that's often said of them. And Defuse have such impressive individuals here, Yinsu. This was obviously a 2-0 for FPX, but both maps very, very close.
Yeah, I mean, FPX, even before the tournament, I'd say that most people would have put them down as the best team in Europe. Like FPX, Heretics, and NIP, I think some people would interchange them here and there, but I think most people would say they were the best team. And they showed a lot of why they are the best team, but obviously, I think them getting knocked out as well, I've seen some people think that it was because they kind of threw the game and they kind of just didn't play as well as they should have, and they weren't prepared. I don't know, because you'd have to have a really deep chat like with Angel to really find out what's happened there. But all the way up to them sort of facing Ascend, I think most people would have thought they'd win it.
I mean, I think that, I think, well, who did they play? They played Guild first. I remember I watched one map of that particular series and didn't get to see all of it here. But Defuse obviously, quite often it's like Logan on that team. They got a lot of praise. He obviously normally is on a Sentinel, like a Killjoy or something similar here. I think a lot of people expected, are very impressed by FPX. And I feel like when people tout the European style, that structured, that team play element, with Angel at the helm, I feel like FPX probably is the best sort of example of this style, right? Angel obviously IGL's on this team. You see he tries to go for a flank here, but I was kind of just a little bit shocked to see the Defuse make it as far as they got. I mean, Alliance sort of fall to them pretty nasty events. I don't know how many of these games you got to see yourself, because you were obviously working on NA Masters here, but this European scene, man, like a lot of people are talking them up, and I can definitely see why, at least stylistically.
I haven't gotten to watch any of it, and again, every single week that we talk about EU, I'm always gonna have to commend Sideshow, because even I tried to do like a full day after cast and be like, okay, let's do 3 regions today. So on the dock, we're gonna watch a fucking Brazilian matchup, then we're gonna watch a Korean matchup, then we're gonna watch a European matchup. I finished one BO3 and it's already 4 hours in a stream, and Sideshow's doing another fucking 2 regions after. I don't know how the fuck he does it. So with this weekend that happened with Masters and working the desk, unfortunately I didn't get to catch up to Europe. I'd like to say that I'll catch up to it very soon. I mean, I hope so. we'll just have to see how the schedule goes.
So then let's talk about NIP, because first of all, Yinsu, you mentioned them as like, a team that's considered one of the top. Existence annoyingly changed his fucking name to Akukos, and I guess that's now a thing. They beat Ascend in the opening match. They 2-0'd Ascend straight off the bat. This is from that series.
Yeah, again, this was really expected. Honestly, the existence of Kukos thing is annoying me, but it's a valid reason. There is a story behind it, and he wants to rebrand. We got to respect his wishes. He's actually changed to a Kukos on Twitter as well, which I thought
I actually love it.
Maybe, yeah.
I actually
like
really,
it.
Yeah, I think it's a great story arc, and it feels like a multiverse where now it's like, okay, well, it's a new me, a Kukos. Like I know he's got a good pedigree with existence back in his Counter-Strike source days and going into the very early CS:GO days. But I think, like, I mean, if we look back at his interview, was it like a running back or something like that? And he explained like the whole story behind it. I think it was like a new page even on his personal life as well, and he just wanted to change everything and have a much cleaner slate than anybody else, and it's just going to be a whole rebranding of the name too. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, that motherfucker ain't out there making Snapchat rants though. Why does he need to erase his past? Like, the guy's a fucking legend.
I do think he just wants to kind of rebrand for Valorant. It kind of makes sense, right? Yeah, because he doesn't want to be sort of people to know him as existence, but I think he has done a world of difference to this team. I know they didn't go as far as they like to hope, so, and NIP being the team that literally makes roster swaps for no reason. They'll just be like, oh, this week we feel like kicking someone, let's just do it. I hope and I wish to God that they don't, because I feel like this current iteration of NIP is the strongest, and it has the biggest chance as well on an international level. I do think when it comes to preparation and when it comes to how smart Akukos is and the way that they play their game, I think they're going to do very, very well if they make it to an international event. I don't think teams especially NA teams. No lie, I would say this right now, but I think NiP would spank half of the NA teams, if not more, in this moment in time, even though they didn't have the greatest tournament.
Sure.
I just want them to stick together and be like, sometimes we lose. That's fine. Like, losing doesn't mean you have to kick people. Hey, I didn't say FaZe. I didn't say FaZe. I didn't. FaZe is not in the category of teams that they're going to spank.
Half, so that implies the weaker half of them.
The bottom half,
right.
yeah.
Doesn't take much. Infamous will get down your throat for that. Let's talk about the fact. Oh, so NIP first of all, they look really good against the Sen. They get fucked on in a couple maps against Heretics, right? This is the team, by the way, that plays like single duelist primarily, and at times has gone without them entirely.
Yeah.
Why capitulate so heavily here? You know, against another top team, admittedly, but I mean, what they won 3 rounds on attack on split, 3 rounds.
Yeah, that was a weird day. I'm not gonna lie. No, I think no one really expected the way that they ended. That best of 3. I'm just reminding myself by looking at the results for this one. To be honest, I think another thing that people like to forget is how good Heretics are. They are constantly underappreciated and underrated. I don't know why. Like, going into First Strike, if you asked pro players, they would not tell you the Heretics were underdogs. Pro players, there was not a single pro player that was like, this is an underdog team, yet a lot of like analysis that I saw was this narrative that they were underdogs. And going into this tournament, people were like, they're going to be able to do back-to-back because NiP and FPX are so strong. These guys, we don't know. Again, I just feel like it's borderline insulting to Heretics, really. And also, again, this could be a reason, but to prep against a team like Heretics, because you have to prep against them with Niso in the roster and also without Niso in the roster, and it's very different.
Nookie plays the Reina, I think, when Niso's out, right? So
well, he didn't used to, but he did the Reina specifically to throw NiP off. He usually plays the Raze, and he debuted his Reina. That's why we were all really confused. We were like, why is Nookie not playing Raze? He's one of the best Razes in the world. But that was, you know, just all a little bit of here and there. Like, you have to prep against us with Niso, and you have to prepare against us when Nookie is not playing Raze. It's all just mind games at the moment.
Do you think they're like one-dimensional though? Because Rhyme doesn't play Reina, and they don't play Jet on this team, right? What Rhyme plays Raze, right? Just Raze almost all the time. And then I think he plays Sova if they play Zero Duelists. They've only done a couple
they
of times.
Do, yeah,
like
yeah.
Like, do you think they're like kind of readable and as a result struggle?
I almost think at times it's the opposite, because Rhyme used to be the IG on this team, and I don't think it worked. And now he's been taken off that role. He's just been like on another level. And another thing I think people don't know about Rhyme and underestimate when it comes to Rhyme is that he is so smart. He is a very, very smart player. And he is doing much more on this team than just fragging out. And even when he does get frags, the impact that he makes, it is, I think, probably makes him Logan level when it comes to like game sense. Okay. I do think he's been underrated for a while, because there's a lot of other people that can play Raze and Sova, like you said, maybe like on paper better than he can, but he is very, very smart. And from what I've seen, the like evolution of him, I would be very surprised if he doesn't go on to play something else as well in the next tournament.
Why was the storyline for Heretics being the underdog when they won First Strike? And then I'm looking like just at their Wikipedia page. It's like, okay, they won First Strike, then they won a B tier event, LVP Genesis Cup. Then they win the Valorant Masters Series Invitational 2. Then they qualify into like easily into the fucking Masters. Why are they underdogs? Like going into this, is it like teams that they play against? Do they still think that it's a fluke? The fuck is going on?
Going into First Strike, 100% people said they were underdogs. Going into this tournament, people were like, yeah, they're good, but they're not NiP or FPX. It was basically like any team that wasn't NiP and FPX was like, yeah, they're good, but are they going to beat NiP and FPX? I think FPX more than NiP to a degree. But I definitely think FPX getting knocked out was like way bigger of a deal. Yeah. But at the same time, Heretics losing again, I have never seen Heretics flustered in any shape or in any situation, on any map against any opponent. I have never seen them kind of like play as if they won 100% confident. And I think the final was where that showed. And that was, you know, that is a testament to how good this team is, that they never shake. They never shake. Even when they're having to reverse sweep teams, they do it with style. They're not a team that ever kind of like doesn't have any confidence. And I think that comes down to experience. I think there's a reason why FPX and NiP are so highly regarded. They've got a Kukos, they've got Angel, you know, they've got some granddaddies in there that's kind of like whipping them into shape. Heretics, they've got Lao. I think people forget how experienced Lao was, and people kind of maybe underappreciate him a little
Everybody
bit.
was talking about him as a stage at frickin' First Strike. Well, how come they underappreciate him now?
Mate, I remember him terrorizing the German scene when I was stuck in cast ELO hell at ESL. my work was I would cast the ESL Meisterschaft every fucking week. It would be just like German or like tier 2 European teams, and LOL is just shitting on. He's playing for Penta Sports, and he's just shitting on people week in, week out. So when people saw him come out of nowhere and just be completely dominant, I was like, oh fuck, here we go. This is to be expected. What's the storyline going into Ascend versus Heretics then? Because Heretics are underrated. Ascend are, you know, coming out of essentially nowhere. Obviously, you know, CNED has a reputation, of course. When you're on the desk and you're introing this game, where do you go?
I mean, this was almost a sort of story that wrote itself for us. And I had like a deja vu because Heretics played Summon FC at the finals of First Strike, and it was the exact same storyline. Summon FC beat FPX, the best team at the time in the tournament outside of G2, to get into... I'm really sorry. Boaster's home. Anyway, back from the Fnatic office. But so during this First Strike, it was Summon FC. They beat FPX. They were like the huge surprise, the underdogs, and they had to like play Heretics for the title. And of course, that ended sort of in a bit more underwhelming fashion than this one. And complete deja vu. Ascend, they had to beat FPX, arguably the best team in the tournament, because G2 won there and they haven't been consistent for a while. And then the final boss was Heretics. And I definitely do think that is a correct way of looking at it from a storyline point of view. But when then you look at the players and you look at what Ascend have managed to achieve and you look at the way they've played, again, people can argue that in the FPX series, that FPX threw the game. But in the end of the day, Ascend won fair and square. They were the better team on the day, in my opinion, as well. So going into the Heretics matchup, it was like, Heretics are probably going to win this. But maybe it would be a 3-2, you know, it was going to be a 5-mapper. But in the predictions that we all did for the talent, me and Mitch were the only people that said Ascend. And I was really proud of myself because I had a weird feeling. I just had this feeling that Ascend were not going to crumble under the pressure. I think Summon FC definitely did a First Strike. They don't have as much like kind of experience, and they really didn't deal with the pressure and the nerve issues well. Whereas Ascend, I feel like this team, they just don't care. They play like they got no worries. Like, look at CNED, man. Like, what is this guy doing?
Who
is this guy?
He's a freak. I remember watching him on Ascent, and he's walking up mid, and then he, with the operator, by the way, just tailwinds into market on attack. Just fucking tail. Oh, there's two guys there. And he just fucking bangs one of them out, like with just some ridiculous quick scope. He's holding the operator. He's pushing these close angles. I understand. It doesn't make any sense at all. Sean Gare says he feels like they've incorporated the quote-unquote NA jet into a strategic playstyle. I can only assume that means like very aggressive jet with the operator. CNED seems like the best jet in the world right now. He has Unreal Impact with Bladestorm. His op is ridiculous. He's always entering, and he's constantly smoking recons for his teammates. Obviously, some of the 1%ers there.
Honestly, his reaction times with those recons, it just blows my mind. Like, I've never seen a jet orb that like smokes,
cloudburst it straight away.
Honestly, I feel that the NA jet actually stems from even CNED, because I don't know if you guys remember about CNED during like the summertime in the beta days. Like, he was the talk of the town as well. There were actually like, I had to go on Google, on YouTube actually, and then look for CNED's frag.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And I was watching videos of this guy fragging because he was just that cracked. And then I think it's no surprise to see how well he's been playing for this team. But at the same time, there was also rumors over the summertime that Fnatic was eyeing on CNED, and they wanted to pick up a Turkish roster or a roster that's built around CNED. So more props to Ascend, actually, to be able to win Masters, and that CNED gets the limelight that he deserves because he's been playing it at a high level for a very long time.
This is why I'm on the footballist Kool-Aid. I just like, as soon as I see a Turkish roster, I'm like, they're gonna fucking pound, man. These guys are crafted. Don't worry about it. I'm pretty sure I predicted them to like win the first challenges just because they were Turkish. So fucking lazy. But so obviously we got CNED in one end. I remember watching Bone Cold in one round on Ice Box. And it's like a fucking half buy. He takes a sheriff. And he's on like this wacky flank and just gets a 4K just from being a complete pain in the ass. I love watching him play. He reminds me of We Did, actually, in terms of like his, loving to go for the sheriff, making his ridiculous plays. He plays a bunch of Viper as well. So hard to shut down. Yinsu, his name was selected for a very specific reason.
Yeah, I heard a rumor about this. His team manager was like, yeah, he's got a quite a funny story behind why he's called Bone Cold. So obviously on the broadcast, post-match interview, by the way, one of the nicest players ever as well. He's so nice. And I just went, yeah, is this rumor true? Like, what's the story behind your name? And bless him, he was like, no, how did you know that? I kind of just like went along with it. And it turns out that he thought he had envisioned himself at a big LAN tournament where casters are screaming his name and someone will be like, then there's Bone Cold with the triple, like to secure the win. And he thought it sounded sick. So he was like, I need to think of a name that sounded the coolest when a caster is like hyping me up.
Yeah.
So he went for Bone Cold. And can I just say, even more of an achievement, this is the only time I have ever seen this happen ever, is that Bone Cold was in a Twitter poll for player of the match against CNED, as in CNED was also in a poll. And if you guys know CNED, if CNED's in a poll for anything, it could literally be like, I don't know, the sexiest hairdo of 2021. He'll win it. Like, if even people who have never seen what CNED looks like will vote for CNED.
So at this point, I think you could take a shit on his desk and win a Nobel Prize.
Yeah, 100%. But what's insane, and it goes to show how good Bone Cold was, I think it was in the match against Nip. It was in the match against Nip. Bone Cold had won a vote. And CNED had to tweet saying, yo, guys, do not vote for me. Go vote for Bone Cold because this guy was nuts. And then in the interview when I was like, Bone Cold, you won. And he was like, what the fuck? He was like, really? And then he went, yo, Turkish fans, go back to voting for CNED next game, please. Because even he couldn't believe it. Yeah, he's a great guy.
And just this was incredible. This was where it was over. I love this. I think it was just such a Europe way to win a series, by the way. Just don't take the fight. Rubino is forced to go to the site and he just gets double swung on, and that's it. Like, it's not with a fucking roar, but like an absolute whimper. See you, mate. Oh well, there it is. Yeah, I love watching that team. They are sick. They're such a cool mix nationalities, right? Keyless is Ukrainian, you've got Spanish, Coldimentor also. I think Coldimentor is one of the best support players in Europe right now. I love watching him. I think he played a bit of the Sage, but I think it was the Sova. He's a Sova player, right? I'm not crazy. Yeah.
He is, yeah. He's IGL as well. He's in-game leader, yeah.
This team is sick. Looking forward to seeing more from them in the future. They obviously, as the winners of Masters now, they your points system is a little weird because there's only 3 slots from from EMEA. It's
2 slots.
3 slots via circuit points, 1 via LCQ. But you have EMEA.
No, it's 2 slots. I swear.
I know
for champions.
The
for
last
champions.
chance.
Okay,
Yeah.
LCQ's
last chance qualifier.
Yeah.
But it's a bit weird for you guys because your Masters regions are split into CIS, Turkey, and EU. So Mixwell points this out, but Europe is the only region that 3 teams can get 100 points at the same time. This can create some weird scenarios going forward, I think.
The problem is that obviously with the pandemic and with, I assume, like latency issues and so on, at the moment, the challenges are separated between Europe, Turkey, even though Turkey is in Europe, and CIS. So the three regions are sort of separated out. They have their own competitions, and then they can earn points in their own individual masters. And what Mixwell is saying is that it's going to be a problem going forward because obviously the competition in Turkey and CIS especially, I guess, is not as deep as Europe. So you will see Gambit BBL footballers always in the finals. You will see, Gambit and Forza in CIS. That they're the teams that are most likely always going to be winning stuff. Therefore, they're going to get more points. And initially, for me, it was also a concern because if you're G2, Liquid, and Fnatic right now, the chances of you making it to the end of the year Champions Worlds competition is so slim because you miss out on the first one and you have to compete against Turkish and CIS teams who already have way more points than you do. But from what we know going forward, Challengers 2 and Masters 2 is going to be a little bit different because for Challengers 2, even though all three of the regions are going to play separately, they're going to come together for like a mini playoffs at the end of the Challenger stage. And two teams from there will then go to Masters in Iceland. So, to compete against international teams.
Wait, do you get points in Challengers too? Or just at the Master stage?
No, it's for qualification, right?
So, I do not know. I think only a Masters 2 you get points.
Damn,
I think.
I find that very tough. Because now that you think about it, and I think we discussed it at the same time too. So first off, the points are going to be harder to take because you can only get them in Master Stage, which means, as you mentioned, somebody like not Cloud9, sorry. Well, even Cloud9, but Liquid, G2 or whatnot, where they're not getting in these points right now, the chances are very slim because it's going to be even harder for them to get to Masters too with how the format is. And speaking about format themselves, it's like NA has double elimination. Brazil has single elimination BO3s. We have GSL for EU, and even the chances of getting points are also different once you get to the Master stage, or at least for Masters 1. Masters 2 is going to be totally different now because it's all on the same stage. But the point system, I feel that maybe you need a little bit more from the point system, even from Challengers maybe, to give yourself those type of chances to have that last chance qualifier to get to the champion stage. Does that make sense? I don't think there's enough games that gives them points, is what I'm trying to get to.
Yes, I mean, I think you've essentially paraphrased what Yinsu was saying as well.
Yeah.
About some of these teams struggling to get opportunities to get qualification points for those tournaments. Anyway, I mean, to be continued on that one. Obviously, Challengers is going to be springing up pretty quickly, so there's not going to be much of a break before the second leg commences. So we look forward to seeing how that goes down. Very quickly before we go to a break, wanted to highlight some of the more enjoyable trash talk moments over the last week or so. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, not a lot coming out of Europe. I'm just going to put that out there right now. Set expectations. Sorry, Europe, you guys got some work to do. Maybe more British players in the mix might help. Actually, maybe not now I think of it. Anyway, here's Sentinels, obviously, with some trash talk here. 100 Thieves announced their First Strike Championship winning shoes. I mean, it's been a while now. They're already in the midst of another competition. Kind of cool. But Sentinels had to let them know who's daddy right now, at least.
It's pretty damn funny right after that. I think the shoes look great. You're riding on that hype of like, hey, you're the First Strike champions. Things are going well. You brought in Ethan, and then, whoops, sorry, that happens. And I always love that kind of trash talk. It's so fun to like. NA Valorant's fucking beautiful. We just have to keep saying it every single time in terms of the social platform of how these guys are just jabbing at each other all the time. I don't know if you guys saw, but like Baby Bay is like currently like cosplaying as Smeagol. And then Trippy, which we're going to have very soon on the show, is like, oh, I didn't even notice this guy was cosplaying at all. Like, even that's fucking hilarious, man. We need more of that shit.
Yeah, obviously, it came up for a brief period, but, Dapper posts a gym selfie, like, oh, I'm ready or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then Trippy hits him with this one. I mean, like, absolutely fucking staunching him at the time, anyway. Bloke's pretty yoked. I mean, he got triceps to choke a donkey. But obviously, to the victor goes the spoils, and apparently so is the last laugh there. I mean, it doesn't change the fact that Dapper is still physically quite diminutive by comparison to Trippy, but I can see, why you would want to talk smack there. That is fair. We even got to see a bit of smack talk over in Korea, which is fun. I mean, geez, if I heard that was Korean smack talk, I'd be trying to inject into Overwatch here. Obviously, those that don't know, Damwon Gaming are a very, very good League of Legends team, obviously, champions. So, well, Vision Strikers.
I'm so jealous. Yeah.
They don't miss.
I'm just jealous. You guys have fun, y'all can go on social media and not try and kill each other and have some kind of banter. But over here, it's all or nothing, really.
Yeah,
It's
it
all or
really-
nothing, yeah.
Really seems like people are house cats or just completely toxic.
Actually, you know what?
Ironic, because I learned to banter from British people. I actually did, but I don't know what's going on over there right now.
Maybe maybe Europe could come over to Oklahoma City and try to apply for Equinox because you get a social media training program.
You have to pay
Oh
$20
my
to try out,
God.
though. That's the problem. Exchange rates are going to hurt them, you know?
Oh my God.
Far out.
Oh my God.
Too real, man. Too fucking real. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how many of these EU orgs can even pay the $20 fee per player to try out. So, you know, we'll see how that goes. Also, Sideshow Gaming puts his foot in his mouth here a little bit. The guy is obviously playing catch up with a lot of his VOD watching, but sees FPX play and thinks that they're definitely on a collision course for being the best.
Oh, bless him. Bless him.
Oh, always hilarious. Like I said, I mean, this guy's amazing in terms of how much VOD he'll watch, and you know, actually everything that he does. You guys have to check out his stream for sure. Like, if you guys want to learn about Valorant or get more in depth about the strategies of how teams are playing, check out his streams. So usually most of his tweets make sense, with the exception of that one. Unfortunately, he had to bite the bullet or eat his own shoe.
I mean, if that doesn't say anything about the state of Valorant right now, I don't know what
100%. 100%.
Anyway, after the break, we'll be back. We're going to talk with Coach Trippy from FaZe. They've unleashed the SMEAG on the world, and God knows what we're going to do. It'll never be the same. We'll talk about NA Masters, and then we'll be awarding our awards for NA Masters in partnership with Spike.gg. Stick around, everybody. More Valoranting on the other side of the break. Yinsu's got to charge her camera battery. We'll see you in a sec.
Bye.
Welcome back, nerds. Thanks for sticking with us during the break now as we start to crack on to the second half of the show. Now, let's not waste any time on bringing him in here, of course. The newest addition to FaZe Clan, arguably the reason for their success, and certified Tolkien fanatic, Trippy is joining us. Mate, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Hey, what's up, guys? How are you?
Great, man. Thanks for taking the time, dude. You've been busy.
100%.
You've been like doing written interviews, podcasts, coming into this one too. So really appreciate the time, man. Really appreciate it.
No,
I'm
for
waiting
sure.
for the cooking show that gets dubbed in Japanese, mate.
Yeah.
That's next on the list.
I'm waiting
man.
for it.
Hey, man. So when you were announced to FaZe Clan, obviously, you know, I came across like a Twitter profile that looked like relatively new. It had like just, you know, announced to sort of FaZe Clan. A lot of people said, the fuck's this guy?
Yeah.
Well, first they said, why the fuck's he so good looking? And then they wanted, like, you know, sort of, you know, where you came from. So we'd love a chance just to hear a little bit about your background in gaming and your relation to, you know, Andre and the rest of FaZe, man.
Yeah, so I've been playing like FPS games for essentially my whole life. I've always liked the competitive side of it. I've always in like every game I've always tried to get into the competitive side, but I could never really commit because of school and work and stuff. So once COVID happened, I had like obviously a stupid amount of time. I got let go of my job, so I was like, well, you know, why don't I give this like a good shot, a good crack, and it worked out. So here we are now.
But your relationship basically is, because I remember watching Baby Bay's interview. So did you guys play together in Crossfire, or how did that work?
So I met him in like 2008, 2009, and we were just little kids playing a little free-to-play game called Crossfire. Basically like a Counter-Strike clone, and we've just been good friends ever since. So yeah.
And then coming into because okay, so Crossfire, you said it was 2008, 2009, right?
Yeah.
So we're looking at Valorant that we're in like 2021.
Yeah.
So what was that? What was that gap in between, and how did those paths cross back in together to get into Valorant with Baby Bay?
Me and him have always been playing games together, like on and off.
Okay.
So we played a little Counter-Strike together, and then a little bit of Overwatch and stuff like that. So we always keep in touch, and anytime a new FPS game comes out, we always end up playing together.
So
Yeah.
I just heard you say free and then corrected yourself. So, but basically, you won't have any issues in the future because you're rolling that FaZe money too.
I guess.
Awesome. Sorry. So I'll go into basically First Strike, because of course it's like for me the talk of the town, and congrats on such a good run that you guys had from the
Thank you.
VCTs going to Masters. And I just want to cut straight to the chase, like looking into the strategy that you guys want to employ versus, for example, 100 Thieves, right? It's like, hey, we're going to focus Asuna. Or if it's going to be versus Envy, we're going to focus Food. And then you were telling me, like, hey, look out for what we're going to do against Tens. And, you know, as much as people talk about SMEAGing and stuff like that too, what exactly were the layers going into those matches of, like, trying to shut down those star players?
Yeah, so duelists obviously have like a huge impact on the game. So being able to disable, you know, one or two of the duelists early in the round really impacts like the way that you can play the way that a team can play the game. So if you can take out, you know, and they don't have necessarily have to be the star player, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you focus like a certain character, you completely take out that utility or a certain aspect of how the other team can play around, and you can pick up on certain tendencies and tells during a match, and you can completely disable a player from the game.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. And then getting back into even before then. So you talk to BBB. You guys get into this conversation like, hey, I feel like maybe you could come and make a difference here in our team. What was how did you look at this this roster basically? Because more specifically, you have Zachary that went out from being a main Sentinel player into playing like a breach or something like that too. So what did you see in every single one of these players where you recommended this type of like composition for certain maps?
So when I came into the team, I started as an analyst, so
Hmm.
I wasn't necessarily giving them all the info. I was just helping them out here and there, and they're taking the information as it goes. So obviously, as head coach, you have a little more weight to push around. But I always try to enable like, my theory on it, like is coaching, is that you should enable your team to the best of their ability and focus on their strengths and build that up, and then as well as focus on their weaknesses. But uh, I saw the way that we were playing, and I saw that there was a divide between the team. So I wanted to bring the team together, obviously character wise, and get them on the same page. So
Okay.
that with those characters, that was a good way to do it.
Okay. Okay. So leveraging that too. Yinsu, you have anything? I feel like I'm taking the mic the whole time. I want to talk to this guy all
It's all
fucking
right.
day.
It's all you, mate. It's all you, mate. I mean, I can't believe we've had Trippy on for what 5 minutes and you haven't mentioned his jawline yet. Anthony, it's all you've been talking about for the last 24 hours.
I just appreciate aesthetics. I don't know what to say.
Yeah,
I'm from the Ziz generation. What do you want me to do?
The nice bushy eyebrows as
Yeah.
well,
Oh
dude.
my
Like
God.
I mean, I even had to creep his Instagram. I was like, okay, so I need to have this festival body.
Oh my God.
I need to follow this workout.
Oh, we need to stop
That's good, actually,
objectifying.
'cause-
We need to stop objectifying.
No, it's appreciating the discipline that is involved in achieving these gains.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
In
Vince
and
has
out of
been
the
bugging
game.
me about gym shit the last month. Now Trippy has to deal with it. He's moved on. Thank God.
Yeah,
I
the
did.
Open
I
Friday,
did.
the Open
I
Friday.
did actually have a question because I think when it comes to coaching, I could be wrong, but as someone who's so ingrained in the EU scene and EU culture, it seems very, very different over here. I'm sure you know you're aware of Sliggy and like what Sliggy is all about. When it comes to Sliggy, he has a very sort of like set approach and philosophy when it comes to looking at the game, when it comes to an understanding of how the game should be played, and so on. So I just wondered, do you have your personal philosophy as well? And do you have, I guess, not necessarily like a definitive answer, but how do you think this game should be played right now?
So my philosophy is like never to be static. So I don't think there's ever a set way that this game should be played. Obviously, there's always going to be new characters, new ideas, and different styles on how to play the game. And I think if you lock yourself into a certain way of thinking, you're not enabling yourself to play the best that you can, or your team. So I don't think that the idea of locking yourself into a certain way or a certain style is good at all, especially for this game.
Mm.
Because there's so many different possibilities that you can combo together with characters and utility and everything. So that's my stance on it.
But then why do you think NA have such like a specific style and meta? Because when it comes to the rest of the world, because we are going to approach quite soon in May to a position where all of the teams are going to start clashing, because at an international event, it's
Right.
going to be wild how each of the regions have developed. But when it comes to NA, I feel like, in EU, we also share like quite a lot of our similarities with Korea. I'd say like Vision Strikers, whatever Vision Strikers are doing, it eventually trickles down into EU quite quickly. But I
Okay.
still feel like if you look at NA and how the game is being played over there, is still very specific and unique. And I don't necessarily think that it's being influenced as much as some of the other regions.
So we definitely have a lot of Counter-Strike pros in our scene right now, and I think that they are playing a style that is and characters that are more comfortable to them, and that's why you see these kind of styles more set in NA than the other regions. But I think as the game evolves and NA learns that, you know, this isn't Counter-Strike, this is Valorant, then you're gonna see a shift in the different
And I
different
guess
comps.
one more question. When we go to LAN, are there any teams that you'd want to face specifically from other regions? And by extension, because, NA players like to say, oh, we're going to shit on EU. Like, why are they playing Breach over there? Like, boring ass region with no
Yeah,
duelists. Like, what are you
yeah,
doing? And EU over here, we're like, we're gonna shit on NA because they got no brains and all aim, like we're gonna run circles around these 3-second executes. FPX don't
right,
execute until the last 10 seconds of the round
yeah.
on every single map. So yeah, so two parts. First question, which teams would you like to face? Just out of curiosity, or you feel like it'd be a cool, like interesting matchup? And also realistically, do you think you can maybe say there is a better region right now between EU and NA?
So I haven't actually watched any other region or any other match because I've been so focused on winning and beating NA. So I
You're
honestly
missing
couldn't.
out.
Yeah, so I can't tell you like who I would want to face, but
Mhm.
obviously anybody from the top. So any top three from any region, I think it would be a good experience.
Mm.
But as far as teams go, I have no idea because I'm focused on beating NA right now.
Just say G2 so we can start some beef.
All
Yeah.
right, G2.
Um, I was reading an article where there's a quote from Baby Bay, and he said that you were the only coach that didn't try to change the way that they played.
Right.
So we've talked a bunch about your philosophy a little bit up until this point, but how is it that you? I mean, I'm sure you can agree with this, right? That it's a pretty night and day difference in performance from and cohesion from this team over the last few weeks. So how do you change the results so much without changing how the team fundamentally plays?
Um, a lot to a lot of this game revolves around teamwork. So if you can get your team as like a cohesive unit and get them playing together, you can like with the different utility, you can just take a site. I mean, there's only so many people on a site unless they stack it, right? So it, I mean, it's all it all depends on it's round by round, right? So
Sure.
Mhm.
um but definitely like this game is a lot different. It's attack FPS, but there are a lot of things that you can do with the utility and the comps and how you play the game. So
Yeah.
if you can get the team working together, it's definitely a huge change. You'll see a huge change,
Mhm.
and I think a lot of teams struggle with the way that they play together in this game. So if you can get your team on the same page, then you're already miles ahead.
Yeah. And you could already tell just from how Trippy just answered this question as to like even as casters are like, there's so much to fucking say and
Yeah,
analyze that you
yeah,
can't really just explain what's going on into a
Sure.
screen. And everything that's off screen, there's just so many moving parts because every single role or every single agent that you choose for your composition, there's a reason for it, and everybody has to play like the correct role with the correct utility at the correct time. So you can't really even base it round by round, but even towards like the the setup to the execution to the pulse
Yeah.
plant is quite intricate. So it's fucking insane. I love
Yeah,
I love studying this
100%.
game right now.
One piece
Zach-
of utility you can change the entire round, so it's pretty interesting.
That's honestly what I want to kind of push on a little bit more, because obviously one of the biggest changes outwardly, right? You don't even have to be an analyst to see that Zach's playing a ton more breach, right? And less of just playing the Sentinel role. What was the cause of that? Was that a suggestion from you? Was that something the team wanted to try? And maybe can you talk us through a little bit of like the basic idea around getting him involved on breach a little bit more?
Yeah.
Because a lot of NA teams don't do it.
Right. So we've always liked the aggressive playstyle, and I think that stems from the guys playing Overwatch. So I looked at our comp. I saw a couple characters that just weren't enabling our players that were going in enough. So I switched out the cipher. Counter-Strike isn't played with a Sentinel. So
Yep.
why would you need a Sentinel to watch flanks and stuff like that? Obviously obviously having a Sentinel on defense, there's a lot of benefits. But for some maps you definitely drop it in exchange for breach. So and I know Zach is fully capable of playing any character. So I was like, for sure, let's get Zach on the breach. He's this really smart kid. So get him on the breach and let's enable our duelists to just go in and destroy everyone.
Okay, so chat, is it Trippy's cat or my dog?
It's cat.
I know, but which
I'm
one?
more of a
which
cat
one's
guy,
cooler?
personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Her
my
name's
god, I didn't
Snooki.
even see your dog. What? Wait, Snooki as in Jersey Shore
Yeah,
Shore
yeah.
Snooki.
I told
Wow.
you, Yinsu. Remember, I told you about this.
What do you mean?
That's
I said,
hilarious.
I said it looks like Trippy's been transplanted out of Geordie Shore, and he literally
No.
he's named his cat after a Jersey Shore character.
Ah,
No,
yeah,
but-
Kaza
Yeah,
here.
but Geordie Shore's a different thing. I don't think people know what that is. You have to be a special kind, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, no, Jersey Shore is it's an
Is that
interesting
where
show.
you're from?
No, I'm from Canada.
Hell
Oh, what
yeah,
the-
man,
No, what-
Canada.
no, what is this cat name? Why Snooki? I need to know the
I
story behind
liked
this.
Jersey Shore when I was younger, and then I was like, I got a cat, and I was like, well, what do you name a cat? And he was cool.
Amazing.
Actually, where in Canada?
I'm in Alberta.
Alberta, nice.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, okay, well, if it was Toronto, I'd get it as to why you like chiseling your body so much with all the the cabana
Oh my God.
parties. Alberta,
Yeah.
I don't know, but
No, I was just always a really skinny kid when I was younger. So I was in high school. I started working out, and
nice.
yeah.
What's
You,
your
you guys-
max rep? Sorry, I have to ask.
I don't know. I don't ever do that.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone asks me what my 1RMs are, and I'm like, why the fuck do you think I'm gonna do that? Just walk up to something
Yeah,
that's here and
I
pick it
don't
up
know.
once. And
It's like to me, it's like a nice way to like hurt yourself. So I
well,
just like, never tried it.
I'm a 1RM guy because
you look like a 1RM guy. Then.
I like that every week I could have a PR. That's how I like define myself at the gym. I don't really mind about the chiseledness. I just like the fact that I feel stronger every week.
Hey man, any physical activity is good activity. Honestly.
yeah.
So,
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
it's great for the mind. Speaking of which, you went up against some teams with really different play styles. I know we're
Right.
cracking on a little bit here because we'll talk a little bit through Masters, but I'm interested in about your matchup against Envy, right?
Right.
Because Mummy admits he reckons that they would have found success if they had either tried to match your aggression or played properly passive. He reckons they were somewhere
True.
in between. But from your perspective, how did it feel like going up against Envy, a team that you kind of know are pretty calculated? They're pretty like IGL heavy,
Right.
like prep focused. How do you prepare for that game, and did it go the way you expected it to?
So the style we've created is like an info gathering and pushing style. So if you give us the space, like you're gonna lose the match. And the way that we adapt is unique. I can't really say too much right now, obviously because we're starting soon
Sure.
again.
Of course,
but
of course.
you know, it takes a special team to figure us out. Obviously, Sentinels Sentinels destroyed us. They had some great prep. So shout out to them. But as we go on, we're gonna make some adjustments. We're gonna keep learning, and I think I can't I don't I'm trying not to
Oh,
say
of course,
anything
of course,
too.
Yeah,
of
you
course,
gotta.
of course.
I know,
Yeah.
you can't give too much
It's
away.
a fucking
man.
2 weeks.
That's fine.
Yeah.
We can't talk about too much.
Yeah.
Fully respect it. Fully respect
Well,
it.
Yeah, sorry
would
guys.
would you be able to say if we're gonna see Astra come into this, at least with your team?
It's hard to say because we literally haven't scrimmed against her or with her yet because we've been
Right.
on the old patch. And then we're on a 3-day break here, which is much needed.
Yeah,
True.
absolutely. Only
Yeah.
3 days, my God. Hey Trippy, stick around because we're going to talk a little bit about how the entirety of Masters went. So I think it'd be really valuable to get some of your insights on some of these teams.
Hell yeah, let's do it.
But, I mean, first of all, Sentinels obviously end up winning the whole thing. I'd love to dig into that in a little bit more detail in a moment,
Yep.
but they bring 10s into this roster, and I remember we were predicting, we were making predictions on who was going to win, and I was just adamant. I was so convinced that there's no way that Sentinels look as good as they had when they just bring 10s in. What the fuck, man? This guy's like plug and play genius. You just don't have to. There's like no assembly required.
Yeah, he's a great player. He's crazy. He's really good. I mean, really, it's hard to say because like he had an impact for sure, but I don't think it was as great as everybody thinks it was. Andre could definitely match him or beat him, and he was actually destroying him on Ascent. Unfortunately, we just didn't bring in the momentum into the other maps, but he's a crazy player, and there's no doubt on any team he could do great. So I'm not really surprised at all.
What was the factor with it then? Would it be more like sick going into it, or like Sentinels as a unit that kind of like put you guys off?
So
or?
Sentinels as a team, they have a really great structure, and that's like top to bottom from the way that they review to their prep, and the way that they move around in the game, and play off of you and rotate versus info that they get. So just as a whole team, you know, they're really good, and a lot of teams could learn a lot from just watching them play.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we didn't really have a lot of time to prep, which it's not really an excuse, but
yeah.
I feel like if we had a little bit more time, maybe a couple more days, we would have seen a lot more a closer game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, looking at how you guys performed as FaZe throughout this whole Masters, I feel that the other teams that faced against you guys were like kind of like the same way as you felt versus Sentinels. Because you could watch as much footage about you guys playing, but you won't have an idea of how you guys actually played once you actually got a taste of it inside the server. And then I felt like you caught a lot of these teams off guard, especially like the Envies and such. But even speaking of Envy, I wanted to ask you about the matchup versus LG. How do you find LG so far? Do you think do you think right now them making it to the Masters and playing the way they did was kind of like a Cinderella story still? Or what's your take on how Luminosity is so far in the NA scene?
No, they definitely deserve to be there. You know, they're grinders. Anybody in the top 10, you know, they're all fighting for their shot. And I think on any given day, any of the top 8 or top 10 could really win it. It just depends if you're on or not. And sometimes teams are off, sometimes teams are on. And right now the game is so young that it's really anyone's game. So right now the best shot you have is to be as consistent as possible. Sometimes you are, sometimes you aren't. So
I mean, you know what? Sorry, you know what impressed me so much though was to see a team like Gen G. I mean, I would say if there's like a breakout team, like obviously I think FaZe were a breakout team.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, the weeks beforehand, but
no, 100%.
Where did Gen G come from? How? Like, what is this made of? They look insane. You guys didn't play them, but I'm sure you probably got to see a little bit of the action.
We played them.
Oh no, sorry. I mean, specifically in the. Oh, you did. Sorry, lower
Yeah,
final.
we
You
did.
beat them 2-0
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts then on them, having seen them develop as well over the last couple of weeks, like alongside you as you've grown?
Yeah, they've definitely grown a lot as a team. We could see their growth in scrims while we were playing them. Uh, I think they also got a new coach as well, so
Yep.
it looks
MC.
like it looks like he's, and I had a small chat with him, and he's a good guy. It looks like he's brought a lot to the table as well, in terms of bringing the team together and getting them on the same page. So I think with a little more time, they'll be contesting us as well as Sent in no time.
Do you think they're back at like that conversation that we kind of had in like the beta days of like if you're thinking about a top NA team, you kind of always had Gen G as like the fourth
Right,
team
right,
after like the Sen TSM and Envy.
right. I mean, yeah, for sure. I think this tournament was a good indicator of where a lot of the teams were at. I mean, if you're not showing up in obviously the largest tournament so far, then how can you say that you're a top team, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh,
So
say that to
any of the top,
G2. Come and
yeah,
say that to G2.
any of the
even closer to home, looking at the NA Masters, right? It's like if you're not that great, then or you don't show that result, or you show that you put that work in, then that's where you're falling behind. And I feel that maybe even looking at 100 Thieves going into the tournament itself, it's like for me before they qualified, I even said on broadcast or on this podcast, I said I wouldn't be surprised if 100 Thieves actually don't even qualify the Masters because they're going for the long-term package.
right.
What's your take so far of like watching Ethan first off joining this roster? Is it actually going to be that much of an upgrade looking at a coach's perspective and looking at Ethan versus Dicey, and then even looking at 100 Thieves in the long run?
So I don't know too much about Ethan or
Mm.
his Counter-Strike experience because I never really followed the scene too much.
Yeah.
But if you can have a guy come in and carry your team within the first couple of months of playing, first of all that's kind of embarrassing. Uh, Second of all, I mean, it obviously shows that he has some crazy talent, and I think he's going to do great in this game.
Mm.
If he's playing like this already, I mean, who knows where he'll be in a year. So I think that was definitely a good pickup. And as far as them qualifying, I mean, they definitely should. I
Mhm.
mean, they have they have ex pros from multiple years of a game that's derivative of Valorant. So
And I was gonna say like maybe and sorry again, so I'm gonna rope you in on this one as well, because when
Yeah.
you look at how 100 Thieves currently played, or how they played for Masters, they went for a lineup that only had one duelist. They had a Sage coming into this one where, in the past, before we even saw Yoel play or Lowell play, sorry, as a battle Sage, nobody really thought in NA that we're gonna use Sage right now. But now as 100 Thieves are going into this sort of reformed strategy of how they kind of want to play this game in North America, but they're still not performing versus the double duelist or like maybe the FaZe play style. What's
Right.
both of you guys' take looking at this head to head now in like the future
Yeah.
of where we could head towards NA?
Just super quickly, Hiko said in an interview after First Strike, he was asked about sort of what he thought about the EU scene, and he directly said they like Sage is trash, Viper is trash. I don't know why they're playing these like dog shit agents,
Yeah.
whatever it was that he said. And then fast forward like a couple months, and they're playing Sage. So
Yep.
I just want to call him out on that. And also, do we want to address the 100 Thieves thing whilst we're
Oh, we
talking
will.
about 100
We'll-
Thieves right now?
I-
Okay,
I
cool.
mean,
I'll let
yeah.
Trippy talk about their struggles against a duelist.
Right. So the game is sick in the way that you can mix up your comps
Yeah.
and change, mix and match and piece things together. So depending on the map, you'll obviously have your benefits and your negatives and your positives for each comp. So specifically, I think they played Sage against us on Bind. I think we got like 6 rounds on them or something on our T side, and Sage is, I the way she's played is to heavily shut down pushes, right? So
Mhm.
as soon as we get 6 rounds on T side on bind, like her pushing ability is basically it's pretty garbage.
Yeah.
So as soon as we got those rounds on T side, the match was pretty much done.
I think there's
So
also a big difference between their Sage and if you watch Heretics and how Heretics are utilizing the Sage and going into Challengers 2. This is the other difference. I would be shocked if EU's like top picked agents aren't Sage and Astra. I think Sage and Astra are going to be heavily picked over here. In NA, I don't know, probably not.
yeah, Astra's crazy. She requires a lot of teamwork, so I think it's going to take a special team and a special player to really utilize her fully. Because going in and out of that map is disorienting, and the timing to place the stars and where and how it's going to take a lot. So we'll see what happens with that character as of right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like in Europe we know how to use other keys other than the W, you know? But that's just us.
I mean, you are talking to the coach of the team that's primarily Overwatch players. You know what I mean? So, in fairness, I think we see teams that play ahead of utility shut down Sage pretty effectively because sometimes they're already on the other side of the slow patch by the time she tries to throw it, right? Especially if you starve information at the start of a round, force utility, and then just hit a site. The Sage is like, no, we're trying to orb you, but the orb is behind you when you're already in there. So at least NA Sages I've seen have struggled to keep up. I think that's why Luminosity and Immortals especially managed to get results against like these more Sentinel based comps because teams couldn't,
no, for
deal
sure.
with that.
I mean, there's counters to everything, and that stems from where you are in the map and the placement of your teammates as well. But there's no indefinite way to beat to play the game. So I think you have to adapt team by team and game by game, and then that's maybe that's why EU is so good at playing Sage, is because they can adapt to who they're playing against. So I guess we'll see. I mean, I'm excited to get out there or hopefully get out there and play against some international teams, because
I'm so glad.
Oh,
yeah.
Baby Bay versus CNED. Oh my god, can you imagine?
I mean,
I need that to happen.
Is a psycho, but at least he sometimes just drops the operator to Raucus and takes a rifle and SMEAGs. You know, I've seen him SMEAGing with an operator.
Really awesome. That's
I'm really
awesome.
glad, sorry, Trippy, that you brought up adaptation, because this segues me very well into the situation that you played 5 maps in a row against the Sentinels, right? You obviously go up against them in the upper finals.
Yeah.
Doesn't go your way. You have a chance to sort of regroup, recoup a little bit, not much, and try and come back for the next series. Talk me through a little bit about how you tried to approach those 2 games differently, and maybe why you didn't feel like you didn't get the result.
So obviously Sentinels had a ton of footage on us leading into the finals, and then once finals happened, we play a game after, the day after, and then we make some adjustments there, and then they have more footage on us, and then we play them the day after, and so you can only move around so much and change so many things in such a short amount of time, and also have your players get some sleep before the match day, right?
Man.
So there's only so much you can do with the limited schedule. So they definitely had our number and had our plays down and stuff. But I think if we had more time, it would have been different for sure.
Are you allowed to tell us basically like what happened this map, because it looks so good for you guys to start? Yeah, because it looks so good for you guys to start, and it came down to this round pretty much.
Yeah, unfortunately we had some inconsistency on T side, and our CT side we had some retakes that just didn't go so well due to timing and stuff like that. But there's just small things that we still need to tweak as a team that will make us a lot better. And I think people don't realize that people call for like all these different orgs to blow up their rosters and stuff. They don't realize that like some of these teams just need small, like just tiny little tweaks and and buffs to the way that they play, they would be a lot better.
Yeah.
So there's just some small things that we're gonna work on coming into the next open, and then we're gonna keep building on the style and building on the strategy and implementing some more things. For sure.
Even actually mentioning that, and sorry if I'm sidetracking a bit too, it's like then technically we would shut down this like type of like pitchfork mentality that we should break up and explode TSM and like try to
Yeah.
find new plays for these guys,
Yeah.
because I personally believe that on paper these guys are still fucking amazing. But I wanted to know your takes on
Yeah.
TSM
So
at that point.
somebody clipped me saying this in an old stream that I did once or a long time ago, but I definitely believe that orgs need to stop blowing up their roster. I mean, there's multiple orgs that are constantly switching out players, and this
Yep.
is not it's not the move. I mean, if you you can't just plug and play, like, not every player is tens or Sentinels. Sentinels obviously has a good system. I think they could have plugged in any player, and they still would have been good, to be honest with you. And tens was just the bonus, but switching out your roster and like it it's awful, man. You build this team chemistry up, and all of a sudden you take away a player or two players. It completely changes the dynamic of the team, and the trust they've built, and the way they've played together. So yeah, my take on it is these orgs are making huge mistakes, and they're hindering themselves a lot. And
Yeah.
Amen.
FaZe's we're lucky because FaZe believed in us,
Yep.
since the get, and they've stuck with us. So hopefully it's paying off for them.
Well, definitely now, right? The second place here at Masters, even
Yeah.
Infamous was telling me like they trust the process that you guys had in place for the team for Valorant 2, and
Yeah.
as org owners, I guess they kind of see that, and you kind of see that from their CS:GO squad as well. Their CS:GO squad wasn't always the best. At some point, they became #1, and now they're trying to find themselves as well. And I think this is great how FaZe is running so far.
100%.
I think I'm always afraid of that. I think I'm always afraid of the off-season sort of shuffle. We saw that in Europe.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of that. I think some of it made sense. I think bringing Yampy, for example, to Team Liquid is one that is going to pay off, provided that they stick with Yampy for a bit. Similarly, Demasig to FPX, huge difference. You can see that, and of course, Existence, Okukos even, to NIP. All of these makes massive sense, and like, if NIP were to make roster swaps now, just because they didn't win something, I think would be a massive mistake. But I think inevitably we are going to see some orgs maybe make roster swaps that just doesn't make sense whatsoever. I mean, even in NA, right? You guys can make an insane team with just your free agents right now. It's like kind of mad.
No, for sure. It actually blows my mind that these orgs are picking up and dropping players so constantly, even after like a small tournament loss. It's like, why don't you sit down, get to the drawing board, and figure out what the problem is, instead of trying to cover it up and replace, one player doing bad, maybe a single tournament, or maybe why don't you build that player up and create a monster? I mean, if you obviously these players feel the pressure, and when you're doing bad, you just want to do better. I mean, all of these guys are competitors. Get them, like, build your players up. It's kind of messed up, honestly. They're making mistakes, and I guess the scene is young, and obviously orgs want to have some limelight and some shine, but I mean, you're not going to do it by placing top 20 every single tournament because you keep switching your roster.
Sure. I think that's why I was molding about the Dignitas, like Dignitas removing Odorous, like stuff going on with Anbox, like Shanks even leaving NRG as well.
Yeah.
Like, he seemed so, like, his tweet after like they failed to qualify in that last challenges was like, fuck Twitch. And we're talking about the guy who would like really made a lot of his fame on Twitch.
No, for sure.
He's like, fuck Twitch. I'm gonna double down and grind. And now I have to read him a tweet of him saying, "Sorry guys, I'm moving on from my team and go back to 8 hours a day."
NRG has a huge problem with switching out their roster. I mean, I've I'm obviously Android's huge pickup. The guy's crazy. But how are you supposed to like build like on a team in a game that are team-based strategies is so important? How are you gonna build these basic fundamentals like communication and everything else when you're constantly switching out your roster? I mean, I don't know who is in charge of the roster, but they're making mistakes.
It's even for me to add up to say like every matches that you guys currently are playing at the tier 1 scene or the tier 1 level is always a high stake level matchup. So
Yeah.
anything that you could practice or scrim, you're only going to have to apply it in like a do or die situation tournament where, you know, Masters points are on the line, or trying to qualify for Masters, trying to even qualify for Challengers. There's no like in between of like smaller tournaments or leagues that even allows you to actually play those to get that practice in.
No, exactly. So when they don't do well in a single tournament, like what do you expect?
Yeah.
You plug in this player 2 weeks before, you scrim them for 2 weeks, and then you play a tournament where you're knocked out indefinitely, and you're mad at him for doing bad. I mean, what do you?
It's like setting players up to fail and then blaming them for
Yeah,
it.
it's
some
it's
fucking next level
ridiculous.
gaslighting, dude.
Yeah.
I also wonder how much of that is an org thing though, because especially CS:GO, we've seen teams literally like turn on each other over certain results. Again, like if you look at what happened to Alexi B, who basically got backstabbed and chucked out of a team that he led all the way to a major final. Again, I have no insight into this, but I do wonder sometimes, is it how much of that falls down to your teammates, like in the back of their heads thinking, oh, it's this guy's fault that we didn't do well, or this guy needs to go, and how much power do they have to then kind of materialize that situation and directly lead to certain players getting kicked? I don't know, but I would be really surprised if that doesn't happen.
This is why
Yeah.
T1 pisses me off as well, to be honest. I don't know, dude. I also think their management blows in Valorant, but I mean, that's... okay, I tell you what, we're going to get stuck on this a little bit. I want to cover something that we just actually saw that got announced. 100 Thieves are on the receiving end of a competitive ruling based on something that happened during their match against Immortals. TLDR, this is great. A dispute over player ping delayed the start of the upper bracket quarterfinals match between 100 Thieves and Immortals by 1 hour. If I do field for an hour, I'm going to fucking drive to 100 Thieves Cash App compound and burn the fuck down.
Wait, they delayed?
Yeah. They refused to play. They jumped into the fucking training range so the admins couldn't even start the game. 100 Thieves prevented the start of the series despite the explicit instructions of the tournament operator to begin the series. Furthermore, 100 Thieves head coach Hector Rosario demonstrated unprofessional behavior towards a tournament official. They're getting fined $5K. Only $5K. I mean, fucking hell, these guys just wiped their ass with that, but okay.
Yeah.
For an extensive broadcast delay due to non-compliance with official decisions. And he's going on probation for the 2021 Champions Tour.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
I mean, I'm not gonna say anything, but I have an opinion, but I won't say anything.
Sure.
Oh,
I read here. Look at this. Additionally, when reminded that failing to start the game pursuant to the tournament official's decision can result in disqualification, Frost threatened to leverage players' social media platforms against the tournament organ. Frost, you're a fucking dickhead.
Yeah.
Wait, so this is against Nerd Street? They did this against Nerd Street? Oh my god.
This was during the Masters, actually. So
that's pretty sad. And
So does probation mean that he cannot then work within the capacity of a coach, or like whatsoever? So he could still be like an analyst and just chill with these guys, or is it no Valorant probation?
Oh, that I'm not sure.
Because if he can still chill with them as an analyst,
how do they enforce that though?
Yeah.
Like really, are they gonna send a Riot employee to his house? Watch him on his computer. I mean,
chaperone him.
but the cause of the delay was about this whole like trying to figure out a right server or right ping, right, for these two teams.
I think, but they selected one that was equidistant to them. That was what they did the best that they could.
Right. So we've definitely had our ping disputes as well, for sure. But I think it's up to both teams to come to a mutual agreement quickly. And for the sake of the viewers and as well as the tournament organizers. I mean, those guys put in a lot of effort and stuff. So I think that's definitely overlooked from the player side a lot of the time. The amount of time and effort and all of that goes into it.
Yeah.
I love
Wait,
how players are bitching about commentators saying mean things about them that could affect their career prospects. And there's literally people that are like, oh, fucking hell, we'll leverage 100 Thieves
Yeah,
social media to
that's-
shame you. Fuck
that's
off.
I mean,
really
I just
cringy.
want to say, like, if I
That's-
did what he's accused of doing, I don't think I'd be able to have a career in Valorant. Like, y'all know what people are like in Europe, but according to
Crazy.
Infamous in the chat, it's just a warning, so it's no
It's a
sanction
slap
or
on the
anything.
wrist.
It's just a
Yeah.
warning, like it's not actually like a punishment or anything like that.
I mean,
So he only got
that's
the
like
fine.
the
He got the
equivalent
fine.
of my dad's a lawyer, you know?
Yeah.
Super.
Yeah, my dad owns this place. Wait until my
Yeah.
father hears about this.
I don't know
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
But definitely props to Sean and DDK for like running a podcast and going back into like the history of like
Wait,
casting.
it
and
was
CS for
that. It
Yeah.
was
They were
that.
live. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I remember
Yeah.
that. Yeah, they smashed it, but I didn't
Yeah.
realize that was the reason they had to fill.
Yeah.
Wow.
That Counter-Strike experience really paying off because ESL never cut to a break when there was a delay.
Exactly,
Like,
you
you
just
you were
talk.
on an island. Mate, I've been left in field so long, I wanted to grab a volleyball and call it fucking Wilson. That's the thing that happens. Let's hello Hugo. Yes. Let's he wants me to feed him. Let's circle back quickly before we say goodbye to Trippy. Trippy, obviously, tough series or 2 series going up against Sentinels.
yeah.
You'll be, I'm sure, going back to the drawing board in a lot of senses. But what do you think makes them so far ahead right now in NA?
Yeah.
Or if you even think they're
I
far
mean,
ahead at all?
they've been a team since essentially the beginning, you know? They've got a lot of good chemistry. They have a good process of figuring out teams, and I've got 5 maps to go over now,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna be going top to bottom and figuring out what's going on. So this will be a good starting point for us again to build up. So thank you, Sentinels.
Dude, I mean, this is for me. It fucking feels really nice to hear because for you to say, "Hey, we have 5 maps," or "You have 5 maps to study now," it just shows how there's this potential that the next time you guys will face off against each other, there's gonna be like a 5-map series already. Now that you've accomplished so much into Masters 1, to get that deeper map pool that you want will be
Yeah,
fucking great.
100%. You guys are gonna see a different phase and a different look for sure. Coming into Masters 2. So I hope everyone's excited for that.
100%.
Oh yeah.
Hey, Trippy,
Oh, yeah.
thanks so much
Yeah.
for your time, man.
Thanks for having me, guys.
It's
I really
sick
appreciate
having
that.
you here, dude.
100%.
All the best and good luck with the rest of the prep now heading into next challenges, man.
For sure.
I'm out.
Let's FaceTime some gym sessions once it opens on
Yeah.
Friday for me.
Let's
No,
do
don't.
it.
If you
Alright,
say
brother.
yes once, Trippy, he'll never leave you alone. Ever.
Oh,
See you, brother.
Peace out,
See
homie.
you.
Thanks
Bye,
a lot, man.
Trippy.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, so okay, we're cat butt overload here right now. All right, so yeah, yes, interesting story there about 100 Thieves. I mean, seeing how that goes. I mean, to answer a question in chat, they didn't just try and appeal. There is no appeal process. The rules say you must comply with directives from the tournament organizer. There is no provision built in there to throw your fucking toys out the pram and sit in the fucking aim range. It's not. So for those being like, wow, I mean, they should be, no, they know what the rules are. They should have read them and they abide by those, and they explicitly state they're going to abide by those by partaking in the tournament. If you have a problem, sort it out afterwards. Don't delay the broadcast by an hour.
And
absolutely fucking atrocious behavior.
That's the thing too, because even for me on the analyst desk or whatnot, there's at times where I'm just fumbling my words because like, yo, just finish your point. We just want to get the game going. And
Yeah.
that's that's what Riot wants. We want they want to make sure that we get as much Valorant action within the server as much as possible than seeing our faces on camera or seeing the casters on camera. We just want to entertain the masses and entertain the people and the fans of Valorant, and just to get games going. And if now it's even the players can't get it going, then it becomes just a shitty experience as a viewer, right? So they run a very tight ship as to be like, if your pregame is going to be 12 minutes, it's going to be 12 minutes, and at minute 12, we're going to the casters. So props to Riot for doing that. Kind of sucks that it didn't happen for 100 Thieves and for Immortals. I want to take their side for it as well from a player's perspective too. Is that you're just you're trying to win at that point too, right? You're trying to prove yourself for 100 Thieves that you've won First Strike. You want to get this as well. So I respect that as well, but for an hour it was a little bit too much.
The disrespect,
okay, so it's not like I'm saying these guys don't have rights. That's not what I'm saying. You can dispute things. You can't after like the tournament organizer gives you a directive. My issue isn't even the fact that they protested. It's how Frost dealt with the problem by trying to threaten to
no, that's for sure,
But can you imagine if you did that though on the desk? You're like, yeah, I'm just gonna let the 100 Thieves players wait for me until I'm like solved my problems. Man, silly, you'd be yeeted out of the desk if you try to pull that shit. You know that. Like you can't do that. Like even if you had some issue that you wanted to dispute or some point you wanted to say, agent select is agent select. It's happening with or without you. Like, but it's just the fact that they're not just delaying, they're not just disputing, they're delaying everyone. Everyone's jobs are on the line. Everyone's time is being wasted. Again, like I said, if I tried to pull that shit, like I think I would have got a slightly more than a warning.
Yeah. Oh god. Can you imagine if one of us? I mean, to be fair, I do have a built-in rider that I have to have 12 minutes every pre-game of my fight. So if I don't get that, then I'm going to delay the game, or I'm just going to throw a tantrum. All right, let's move on to a fun little segment we're going to build in at the end of the show. Once again, big shout out to the Spike.gg for providing us with some of the resources in order to make very informed decisions about our awards for NA Masters. Now, Yinsu, obviously, as our guest, you'll be going first. You'll be selecting your MVP.
And as a mademoiselle.
Your best leader, IGL, I assume, and then your top support player from the tournament.
Okay, should I start with MVP?
Yeah.
So this one was really hard for me, and it's almost hypocritical for me to not say Sick, because I think Sick is the most underrated player probably in the whole scene, and I think he's been underrated for a long time. However, you can't ignore Tens. I don't think many players could have stepped in that scenario. If you think about the context of him having to step in, admittedly, I don't think Sentinels fans would have been very mad at him if he didn't step up. But it was definitely a situation I don't think many players have to ever go through in their lives. But he not only sort of come in and did a job, he absolutely smashed it. I don't know why he stopped playing competitively in the first place, because what the hell? Yeah, and he has won, and I think he's been great, and I think he handled it very professionally as well. Came in, had a job to do, delivered. Billabim Bosch, and he is a great I think he's a good role model too in that sense. I do feel like another thing is he's bringing a lot of storyline and viewers as well to all of these games. I think people will in the future start watching Valorant because of Tens. And you cannot underestimate sort of the power that he brings in that sense. So I feel like, yeah, I wrote him MVP just because I feel like if Tens didn't play, I definitely would have voted for Sick. I think Sick is a close second. And my the leader, what was it? I'm just getting the list up. So leader of the tournament, it would be silly not to give it to Shazam. I just feel like this is just like ridiculous if we didn't give it to Shazam. I think I did an interview with him a while ago. This was when the team was just sort of coming together before First Strike and all that jazz. And he was joking about how like he was looking after a bunch of kids. He's like, yeah, I gotta tell them sometimes to shut the fuck up, and I gotta tell them to like, keep your head down, steer them a little bit onto the right path. And I think again, the context of everything that he's been dealing with over the last year and the way that he stepped up and consistently just been solid for this team, we have to commend him for that. I think again, a really nice guy, massive role model, like regardless of what he might have done in the past or what people like or don't like him. I think in this moment in time, we need players like this guy. And I would honestly feel like if they didn't have Shazam, I don't think he would have got as far as he has. They have even. I think he's really, really pivotal to his team. So Shaz, big up, great man. And for support, which is the next award, I went really rogue on this one because I didn't really want to go with like a in-game support. Like I didn't really want to go for your Sova or your controller or anything like that. I went for Trippy for this one because if you look at the way the FaZe have been, I don't think it's a coincidence that they have managed to improve so fast in such a short amount of time. And coaches are criminally underrated in this game right now. I think in CS is gotten a little bit better.
Worse in CS.
Yeah.
Do you think?
It's terrible. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, they fucked up a bunch of coaches, like abused the bug, and now they're getting pushed out.
Oh, I see. Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Yo,
I mean, like,
nice stats on Spike.gg, Trippy, lol.
But if you look at like Zonix and all that lot, do you know what I mean? Like some of the coaches do get some of the respect that they deserve, but I think in Valorant, criminally underrated. And I think if anything, when things go wrong, that's when people start pointing fingers at the coach. But again, having spoken to Trippy today as well, and the way that he's approached this team and what he's been bringing to these guys, I got to give him the support award. Yeah, big support.
Yep.
Go follow him, y'all. I'm just gonna plug him. Yeah.
All right, Vans, you nerd, you're up.
All right. So apparently, somebody came into my house yesterday and stole my notebook because I also have tens as the MVP of the tournament. Yinsu just copied me on all of these.
You mean you came to my house?
Copied her, to be honest. Yeah.
Honestly, though, like as Yinsu would say, like a close second or close to this race for first as the MVP is sick. I actually my closest MVP would probably be Baby Bay as well, right? Because Tens, of course, comes into Sentinels. They've barely practiced. He was streaming it. He was doing aim labs. He was still trying to figure out which sensitivity he was going to use the next day for the games, and asking his chat to do it. And he's still able to come in and just drop numbers. Like just a single round of his first game, and then going into Icebox where he's just running through and almost getting
DPI switch on. Dude, like he was
at
like
1600. He was at 1600 DPI, and he's still like fragging.
He's normally at 800. It's
exactly.
Ridiculous.
So I think Tens was a great plug and play to Sentinels to be able to help Sentinels. Of course, like I think overall the whole team was amazing, but he definitely did help. And I think any other player that would have replaced him in that roster, I think we would have seen a finals where FaZe actually won Masters, or a universe where FaZe would have won Masters if Tens wasn't in Sentinels. So that's my pick for MVP. Or leader, of course, for me is going to have to be Shazam as well. Just because of the tenacity that he's had in terms of an IGL and how much he has to do for this team, and of course trying to figure out how to play against these teams. On top of that, of thinking how he has to plug in Tens into the strategy for them to try to win these games. And yeah, Shazam, I think I want to echo what Yinsu was saying. Like this point in time, if you actually even follow his Twitch right now, as I've been watching him closely for the past months, like his stream is super wholesome right now. I mean, he's gonna have moments where he's gonna go on all out rants, and you see him on Reddit and stuff like that too, of like complaining on the state of the game or how like people are criticizing him in terms of the Sentinels playstyle, and he has to defend himself. He has to defend himself. He has to defend his team. And look at that. All of the gameplay and the results now that Sentinels has done all the talking for the amount of work that Shazam has put into this team. It's great. But I do have to definitely give a special shout out to Sentinels as a whole, as to, of course, when we had the unfortunate news of what happened to Shazam over towards December at First Strike. The whole team was there to be the leader and support him in order for them to do quite well, actually, despite all that in First Strike. So you're even looking at Sentinels that didn't have power, didn't have any fucking water, and didn't have time to practice, and they still qualified into Masters. So that's a lot of tremendous work that Shaz had to do for that. Last but not least, support. Well, if I could not put Tens if I couldn't put Sick as the MVP, I definitely put him as the support, because Sick, for him with Tens, I mean, there's been a portion in the analyst desk where we're just commenting how great they look in the combination. I think it was like them in the back of C and on Haven, and I think it was against 100 Thieves, right? I don't know, maybe not 100 Thieves. I can't forget who they were playing because there's so many games, but they were just looking as like a great unit together. So Tens would run away from a recon dart that would bait out opponents trying to chase after him. Sick would come out with a curveball from the back of C. He goes out for a wide swing for a kill. He runs back. Tens comes out with the op, takes a person down. It just shows how much Sick is able to adapt very well or play very well to support a star player like Tens. And Tens could actually reciprocate that to Sick as well. Which is why, yeah, if the cost in the buyout for TenZ is going to be that high now, I think that Sentinel should still fork that money and bring TenZ into the roster so that we see like an amazing era of Valorant North American, like even maybe potential. No, okay, let's not say world, but potential North America for now. In terms of like a powerhouse, I think Sentinels would look great with TenZ in the roster.
I think no reason to think that there won't be an era of dominance precipitated as a result of TenZ joining that team in the long term.
Yep.
It's my turn, I guess. So the MVP for me, actually, maybe I'm just more support-minded, but I think Sick was actually my MVP.
Yeah.
I think that he was just incredible over the course of the whole tournament, actually. He dropped 43 on 100 Thieves. He actually dropped like hot, steaming awful on them in that series.
Yeah.
It was filthy. I love watching him on Haven, especially. I think his Phoenix is really good. And talking about flexibility, I mean, Shazam obviously had to play a bit of Sova as well. He had to try and figure it out. But Sick also, fulfills that role when they want Shaz on Jet, because that's when they have TenZ on the Reyna, right? So Sick is like the guy who has to just get the short end of the stick in any of these rotations. Like, he is at the bottom of the hill in terms of the poop rolling down it, in terms of, where people have to make compromises and make those shifts. And it still looked incredibly good over the course of the series. I think he was eclipsed by Douglas Apper in that last series. I think Dapper actually had, we need to mention because he hasn't come up yet, but he had a standout performance against FaZe on both occasions. Just, hard to call him a support player when he's just rolling on the Cypher. But yeah, definitely for me, Sick MVP. Leader, I mean, Shazam, it's not a hard decision to make. I think like just his candor over all the shit that he's had to deal with over the last few months has just been nothing short of astonishing to me. Not only the tragedy in his family, but I also know, like, if you listen to him as he talked on Backchat, he was doing it really tough during all the nonsense that went on in Texas. Like, obviously many of his teammates were as well. But this guy steps back from the jet roll, picks up Sova. Motherfucker has to try and look up Sova lineups on his phone while he's playing. Like, it is such an incredibly selfless thing to see him just take a big step back and say, I put the team before me. The guy's a dynamic jet player. It's one of the clutchest jets when it comes to using Blade Storm. I thought his defense-sided op usage actually on Icebox was one of the biggest reasons why I like Sentinels on that map, for example. He says, no, I'll give all of that up to give my team a chance of winning. Sentinels as a team got put under the most fucked of circumstances, I think, in Masters, based on, like the ejection of one of their teammates. And they, not only did they persevere, but they thrived as a result of it. And like, you cannot quantify this at all. It's just, it's really quite special. So that is definitely my leader. And finally, of course, to talk about my support, it would be Crashies, actually. Who I think personally, talk about people that have dealt with some bullshit at home. Crashies also, I mean, suffered the loss of a family member recently, but this guy as a Sova player is absolutely insane. He is like a third secret weapon on this roster. On Ascent is one of my favorite maps to watch him play. Mostly the Sova. We don't see as much Sky from him as of late, but he sits alone on that B site and just anchors it. You cannot shift him off that site. He will get a 2 or 3K by the time anyone sort of gets to him. He looked really good, I think, in Envy's games in general. Unfortunately, I'll be honest, it was Mame that really wasn't able to come alive when they needed him to. And FNS obviously had a tough series, but Crashies is a consistent performer for that team. I think they're completely screwed without him. He's like the epitome of a role player, in my opinion. And it's a shame that Envy don't go further. Obviously, again, you could put players like Dapper in that same position if you really want to call him a support. We're using the term fairly loosely here, but really impressed with him. Shame to see Envy not go any further, but hopefully they get some renewed drive coming into challenges, which is not that far away. I mean, first up, we've got game changes happening in 2 days' time. I'm really looking forward to seeing that. We covered so much in this show, but I want to give both of you a chance to add some final thoughts before we wrap it up.
You go first, Vansili.
Ladies first.
Okay, final thoughts is I love where the scene is going, like globally. Obviously, we have some issues here and there. I feel like we can't go a day without some kind of drama somewhere, but I think that will come down to professionalism. I would love it if we can get more professionalism in the scene, because you look at the situation with 100 Thieves, you look at the situation with Niso. You look at a lot of these situations outside of actual tournament and competition, and it's just unacceptable. I think we need to, as a community, to understand that certain things are just not acceptable. And until then, this scene is going to be hurt by it. People are going to be hurt by this. And this scene is not going to grow as healthily as it should. The more that we tolerate these kind of things that's going on, But luckily, Riot are stepping in. People are learning from it. And I don't want it to end on a negative note because I can't believe Masters 1 is done, which is kind of mad, right? We're 7 months away from champions. But bring on LAN because EU are gonna absolutely dominate. I'm just gonna say that. Yeah.
You're gonna come onto this show in North America and say that? How fucking dare you?
100%.
No, it's gonna be a good one. I actually do want to echo what Yinsu was saying too. I think overall, as much as we talk about how fun it is to like trash talk and jab at each other and stuff like that too in North America Valorant on Twitter, it's fun and games. It's exactly that, fun and games. Don't take it by the letter, by the foot as a fan and start like beating over each other over it too, right? We could see how good we are as a community and how good we are when we come together into like supporting game changers, supporting for the women's tournament over the summertime as the Ignition series. How we all got together when David P even lost his father. How we got together for Shazam, how we got together for Crashies, how we got together for when Shot Up was actually like on emergency leave when Shanks came in. We are so good at being supportive with each other, to each other, and I think that we should keep that in mind and always put that top of mind in order for us to have such a great community worldwide too. I think we are so good at this, and we could continue to do good as well.
Thank you so much, Yinsu, of course, for joining us from across the pond. It's so great to have you here and to get some insight, especially a bit more on Europe, because, with Vansilli and Velly as busy as they are, it's tough to get those deep cuts. But thank you so much for coming on. I hope we can do it again soon.
Great to be on. Dream come true, y'all. I've been watching for so long, so very happy to be in the presence of the both of you and get to hear you guys rant in real time.
Humble to have you.
You outdid me today, just quietly on the ranting side.
I'm the one that's humble, man. That rant was fucking sick.
Hey, keep up the good work. You might get passed over for next Masters like I did. Anyway, EU challenges on the 30th. It's not too far away, ladies and gentlemen. So that competition is still going to kick up there. And of course, game changes this week. We're going to be back next week to discuss all that and more. So until then, ladies and gentlemen, have a good one, and we'll see you soon.